Great. Thank you, Catalina. Good morning. Still morning out here on the West Coast. Thanks for having Caleb and I today. We're excited to talk about some of the work that we're doing at Metro with our regional partners to reduce congestion, improve travel time, and create safer communities. Thanks, Caleb. Next, Caleb's going to be doing my slides, so I will say next slides every once in a while. All right. Thank you, Joe, for outlining, TDM, or as you refer to it, ATDM, for the crowd. Today, Caleb and I are going to go over, our approach, Metro's approach to TDM in the region, how TSMO and TDM intersect and complement each other. Often kind of refer to TSMO as having those tools that help build the real, sometimes the foundation, but often really the drive for a lot of our TDM programming. And then some of the work that we're doing to improve our performance in the region. All right, next slide. Right, a little about Metro. We're the regional government that is more than an NPO. We manage a number of regionally significant things like our garbage and recycling system, our venues like our convention center, and our regional parks and natural area program. So we do a lot, but we cover 3 counties, that's 25 cities, about 2.5 million people, but that does not include Vancouver, Washington, although we are a close collaborator with a lot of our work, especially around transportation. Within the larger organization, and then within our planning and development department, we have our little program, Regional Travel Options. We organize our work around 3 areas that focus more and around how people interact with the program. So, or where they're just would be getting information about the program. So it's not necessarily about how they're traveling. We try not to, or where they're traveling to. We try not to focus too much on that. So for our commute program, that would be programs where they would interact with programming at work or a higher education site. We fund transit agencies, transportation management agencies, jurisdictions, and colleges. Some examples of the work that they do is, they support employer commute benefit programs, programming for students and staff to be able to get to a college campus, a lot of marketing and outreach programs, and or support for van pooling. We also include our Safe Routes to School programming within our larger program, which is usually support for districts or city staff to facilitate those types of program. And also we have a community-focused programming that would reach people in their homes and in their neighborhoods. And most often we fund community and culturally specific organizations to provide travel options resources at sites where folks are already getting information that they need to know, often through local jurisdictions, to implement programming in their communities. As a clarifying point, we're not operating anything. I think that's always kind of our dividing line. We're really program and policy focused, and we're there as a support for all the infrastructure, both existing and planned in the future. Okay, next slide. Take a little sip of something. I'm recovering. All right. So from a regional perspective, our TDM approach we've operated for several decades, collaborating with partners to plan and implement travel options programs that focus on walking, biking, ride sharing, and taking transit. In the last decade, we have focused primarily on as a grant program. So we are primarily a funder. In our most recent cycle, which began this last July, and will last over the next 3 years, we'll be awarding around $9 million to different partner programs. And that's in addition to our own internal programming, which includes regional leadership and evaluation. So we conduct evaluation, extensive evaluation of our program and the programs that we fund. We research and do program development that informs and supports those programs. as well as acting as regional lead for advancing TDM policy, and act as the regional lead for a lot of our statewide efforts. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments, that operate under our state brand, which is called Get There Oregon. We also provide some direct TDM services, and I'll talk about that a little bit at the end of our presentation and our approach to that. And of course, there are many activities and that are held by our jurisdictions, different programs, business districts, large and small businesses that are not officially a part of our RTO program. Just because they're not funded by us, we still regard them as collaborators and partners. We're kind of there to be their champions and ensure that policies support the work that they do, and act as a connector with them for other programs that are around the region. All right, next slide. All right, an important component is our partnership with our statewide agency, Oregon Department of Transportation, ODOT. We do a lot of coordination and collaboration with them. They've really stepped up in the last 5 years to take a lead in advancing TDM work in the state, and providing important leadership in the region. I'll make sure to put a link. I think we're one of the first states in 2015 to have a state travel options topic plan, and that's really been a great guiding document for work in the metro region, as well as ensuring that we're coordinating with the rest of our partners around the state. A few things that they provide that have been really foundational to giving structure to our TDM work is the brand Get There Oregon. It helps us really be able to know that if we're promoting a van pool in, say, our southern region for folks to commute down to Salem, that it's that there's a sense of cohesiveness and that we're all using the same resources, and it doesn't confuse commuters on where they're getting help from. Of course, one of the most important things that ODOT provides both for our region and around the state is funding. They have grants and other awards that they have for regional entities like ourselves, but also other transit agencies and jurisdictions for them to do work, primarily around the commute trip, but also other community and safe routes to school programming as well too. They've also done a good job at providing resources that we're able to use. It's nice, it takes it off of our budget, and those include Get There Connect, which is our online carpool matching, rideshare matching, and trip planning website. In the future, this will include a survey tool that all of our partners throughout the state will be able to use to help implement our what we have is called the ECO rule, and that's our statewide, which will soon be our statewide commute trip reduction rule that currently just operates in the metro region. And additionally, a customer relation management platform. Most folks know that as called Salesforce or HubSpot or any of the other online tools, and that will allow us to be able to have that as a shared resource while we do outreach to businesses to help them with their commute benefit programs. All right, next I'm going to hand it over to Caleb, and he's going to talk about TDM and TSMO and how we kind of lean on each other. You're on mute. You're still muted.
All right, thank you, Marty. Helping each other out. We've worked together for years, and I started out in transportation demand management, and then started working on that first 10-year strategy for the region when we were introducing TDM into TSMO. As Joe kind of highlighted how these things fit together. And then since worked on this updated 2021 TSMO strategy, This is implementation for the next 10 years. It's our vision, goal, actions. And really, we spent a lot of time incorporating equity into the whole plan as a major policy, both for our agency and regional partners across the region. So, that informs how we go about, who we're working for, who we're thinking about with services as we plan. And we thank National Operations Center of Excellence for the 2022 DEI award for this plan, and it inspires us to work harder and implement this ambitious 10-year strategy. So back in 2010, we were thinking about traveler information as a connection to TDM. Our 511 system in Oregon is called Trip Check, and we're thinking about variable message signs, all the kinds of things you can put out there, along with the partnerships Marnie was describing in communities with transportation management associations, cities, and thinking about what's relevant in suburbs or in cities outside the core or of central city. And so we did that thinking, and then we're inspired by what Joe brought up, the active transportation demand management tools, the concept that I boil it down to, you can use these tools in real time, but it's more than that. It's the TDM partners are essential for getting information out so people know what options they have and how to use them, how to get them. Once they have that knowledge, they can, they're making that decision, that behavior of which mode to take. And then I think of TSMO as like, once they've made that decision, we need to have a system that is safe and reliable. So whatever mode they're on, bike, walk, transit, driving, they'll have a safe and reliable journey. So I want to talk about these intersections and connections Joe was talking about as well. In the Venn diagram, what kinds of things go into this middle space, and overlap between what we're doing, especially in operations. It's a whole nother topic. Like transit, we do have that signal priority that's really helping the reliable journey, but just thinking about the TDM model, I want to share examples where some of our partners are leading, and how we Metro Connect maybe at the beginning of their work, but they've really gone on and done a lot of innovative things that are serving our region. So universal basic mobility is that concept that as we have sidewalks, streets, we also want to think about the services and what's being operated and how people access that, and make sure everybody has what they need to get where they need to go. Mobility on demand, those are the tools that technologically function in the background to make things seamless between shared use mobility and public transit and everything that's available. And then the idea of complete trips, that not only is it door to door, but let's even route people through buildings. How do you get through an airport or a university, an event center if you're a person with a visual impairment? So let's see. The first examples are the City of Portland's work, really, the transportation wallet. I'd like to say, maybe some of the inspiration behind this was Metro investment in their individualized marketing, which worked in neighborhoods and got the information, customized for each resident in a neighborhood. But clearly, once you're putting, something valuable in somebody's hand, they have an ability to try that out and see how it works for them. So I think this is like kind of a TDM, classic TDM, turning into the tools and some of the technology that supports mobility. So the first version of the transportation wallet, and I'm going to go through three. So the first was launched in 2017, and it was in two areas of pretty central to downtown, but not in downtown. There's a Northwest parking district. Northwest Portland's very dense, historic, lots of new development, commercial district, lots of employment as well. And both residents and employees are eligible to get these transportation wallets. The other ones east of downtown and in what's called the Central East Side Industrial District, more employment there, and plenty of other destinations, but fewer residents. So both of these, through a City of Portland Parking Advisory Committee, added a surcharge to their parking permit. So if you want an annual permit to park on street and in certain publicly owned lots, then then that's the permit. You pay more, and then that pays for what you see in the transportation wallet. And I think that's common to all these. Like, to introduce this mobility, there has to be a revenue stream, and paid parking environment certainly sets that up, that ability. But it's only 2 districts out of, I think, 17 that the City of Portland has. So we're not talking about widespread offerings, but something to build on. And the other examples show some of how it's built. They're building on it differently. So $99 to buy it. It's free to low income, free for trading in your parking permit, or anybody moving, probably just the first year that they become a resident of that Northwest District. There's some payment integration. There's more ways to integrate it. I think so TriMet, the transit agency for the region, covers most of the region. Their card and all the features that come with it are supported both on their transit lines and also the Portland streetcar. So 7,000 of these transportation wallets are distributed to date, and some good results. 2019, a survey showed that 3/4 of the wallet holders were using sustainable transportation options. And only 25% of their trips were drive-alongs. And so, a lot less solo driving than people without the wallets, were 57%, which is pretty good, but it's also, we're talking about really central areas, paid parking districts. But yeah, 57% of the trips were made driving solo without the wallets. And then, so it's good to see results. And we point out, like, TDM can be hard to measure. So one thing the wallet has is going for it is some really solid ways to measure it, and then also data coming out of that. So on the right is the heat map of the bike share users, and Biketown is also run by City of Portland. So there's data by payment type, I suppose, that can produce these results. And this is a bit old. In 2018, the bike share zone is expanded, but it's interesting to see how people, certainly a lot of their trips are in these districts where the parking permit is, but many outside to commercial areas, lots of event venues, different destinations. And then, I noticed up north at the top of the map is a circle around Portland Community College. So some folks using it to get to college. And again, great to have some data coming together. And that's a kind of a hallmark of TSMO, is getting data back off the system to be able to show and do more planning, show results and do more planning. Okay, another more recent evolution of transportation wallet came out of what was called an affordable housing transportation wallet, and has now revolved into Access for All. And so clearly headed more towards that universal basic mobility. It's free to residents, and the eligibility is really conducted by community development corporations, community associations, and they're not, I show between these 3 options, there aren't huge numbers of transportation wallets, and that's, I think, part to do with the revenue for this program, but it's a start, and it's interesting to see how individuals choose different wallet types or households. And the funding is coming from first of all, a parking fee to support climate action that's coming out of the City of Portland, And then it's transitioning over to another, what's called the Portland Clean Energy Fund. And so, I suppose it's new policy that helps fund this program and expand it. Success so far, 68% had really extremely low income for the cost of living in Portland, less than 15,000, and 97% reported saving on transportation costs. 95% agreed their monthly budget was less stressful, and 48% tried a new transportation option, like shared use bike or e-scooter or one of those. And the third version of the wallet is for new movers. Again, like the City of Portland's individualized marketing program turned into a new mover program where they approach just people at that decision point, which is a hallmark of TDM, when people are changing behavior, as the best time to reach them with the information. But this also puts that bike sharing and transit option in their pocket. And so it's paid for by the fee. When a building developer gets a permit, it's for larger multifamily developments, 10 or more units. There's the payment integration, so they're kind of being able to innovate on this platform of how City of Portland's able to partner with TriMet and fulfill the costs for the transit trips that these transportation wallet holders use. So that's happening in the background, and was some development to make that interoperable. And now I'm going to share another example that goes way back to some early RTO grants. The Open Trip Planner was something, after the general transit feed specification came along, and TriMet put that to use. Their innovation was to work on an Open Trip Planner with partners, around the world, public and private, and a small grant started that work to include bike and walk as part of your trip planning. And of course, you're saving a lot of time when you know more efficient route. So biking as one leg of the journey, biking 3 miles maybe takes 12, 15 minutes. That might shave off 20, 30, 40 minutes. So the concept was, by combining modes, you could use the transit system better. And then, of course, the transit vehicles have bike racks on them and then nearby. Then Bike Town Shared Use Mobility, the initial funding actually was through grant funds that City of Portland applied for to do it, the capital project part of that. And then when FTA launched the Mobility on Demand Sandbox demonstration, TriMet was able to add ride hail into it and shared use mobility, including Bike Town, which I'm showing there. Is the option selected, trimet.org. You can see the trip planner there that incorporates all this. And similar to, saving time by biking for one leg of the journey, you can save a lot of time in some parts of Portland or at some times of the day by using ride hail for, say, a third of your journey. So it connects the ride hail to transit. And then more recent work by TriMet is through FTA's Integrated Mobility Innovation Demonstration Program. So this, was a lot about payment and adding to the payment options. People could use mobile pays in different versions, their credit card, and they could also bring their Hop Smart card into their phone. And then there was also some attention to underbanked and I think the functionality there was that fare capping, because TriMet does have fare capping where once you ride for 20 days in the month and you paid that fare, you get the benefit of having the monthly pass. You don't have to pay after that. So it's more equitable, especially for people who can't afford the upfront cost of a monthly pass. Customer experience, some things tried were more interoperability with the transportation wallet. They evaluated a 2.0 of the Open Trip Planner and explored new arrival predictions. Not all of these things panned out, but we're good to explore. And we think with arrival predictions, the machine learning didn't help enough. So now that we're doing a next generation of transit signal priority, as we build that out across the system, I think we're going to get more accurate arrivals there. So you'll know when you're arriving to your destination, and better transfer connections as well. And I think this is towards the end of my slides before I turn it back to Marnie, that another thing that came out of this was mobility data, where they could look at how people were tapping their fare instrument and inferring destinations, and really put this into planning purpose. So the example, the data folks, the fare card folks, and the and trip planning folks were telling service planning at TriMet was, maybe think about combining line 71 and 21 into one route. It looks like a lot of people are, using this to get to work. Other destinations in the north along the Columbia corridor, the river there in the north of Portland, and they'll benefit from a one-seat ride to jobs. So it's just more to think about, again, with using the data that comes out of these systems. Last, I'll go back to a more recent Metro TSMO program investment that hasn't started yet, but when we think about data layers that need to go into these tools for mobility on demand, we're still when it comes to sidewalks and walking routes, we're only the data, all we can share is that there's a sidewalk present, at least on one side of the street, to route somebody. But more details needed for people with disabilities. What if they're in a wheelchair, what's the uphill or downhill steepness that they tolerate? And how do they avoid raised curbs? We don't have a data layer like that. But through the USDOT, ITS, JPO, ITS for All funding, there's a lot of innovations, including University of Washington, to collect that data, starting with some automation and machine learning, but certainly probably getting checked out in the field or through Street View. And by putting together this data, adding sidewalk width, where there are tactile guides for people with visual impairments, we'll be able to really, hopefully share that in this open sidewalks data platform, serve it, and things like the Open Trip Planner should be able to use it, other apps, and just providing better walking and travel experience. I know I would use it when I had my kid in a stroller to avoid some curbs, or when I threw out my back and needed to walk around but didn't want to step off a curb. There's all kinds of reasons to see the uses for this data. And I know, some of it's when we're doing travel training for transit, how to coach people who haven't ridden before, on their best route to get to stops. So I'll turn it back to Marnie for the last few slides.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Caleb. Like most programs, we're always asking ourselves, how we can improve. As I mentioned earlier, we do a lot of program evaluation and making sure that we put that evaluation to good use. We definitely are in a growth period and have done a lot of planning over the last couple of years, asking ourselves, how we can improve. Here are some ways that we're looking to evolve our program. We have our 3-year grant cycle. It's continues to have a lack of jurisdictional involvement and dedication to TDM work, because it is definitely, we think that, sometimes if you just have money available to jurisdictions to do work, that they'll step up and do that. But, we continue to try to have a hard time making this a priority within jurisdictions. We, through our evaluation, we know that our impact and the participation rates in our existing program, especially around our commuter programs, have really flatlined for many years. we are lacking a regional TDM plan, and that to guide others' work in the region and to ensure that we're all working in coordination. And that's something that we'll be addressing. And many of our partners and fellow grantees, we work in each other's sphere, but we're not really working together. I'm going to quickly go over just 3 areas where we're looking to make some improvements. The first is our regional mobility policy update. It's a part of our regional transportation plan that will be should be passing here in the next week or so, actually, I think. As the MPO for the region, we guide policy and investments in our transportation system, where we update our regional transportation plan every 5 years. In the 23 update, we are updating a component of that called our regional mobility policy, which is how we define and measure performance in the transportation system. And we're adding to that policy where TDM will be included as a mode in performance measurements and evaluated in the jurisdictional planning process. So as part of a jurisdiction's regularly scheduled transportation system plan, they would need to conduct a gap analysis, define what a complete TDM system is for their community and in their geographic area based off of different contexts and needs. And then they would prioritize projects and collaborate with partners to move those projects forward. One way of looking at that is for now, instead of creating a large regional TDM plan, which we will do, but we'll be now requiring local jurisdictions to complete and maintain their own, and with support, of course, from Metro. And this allows that planning process to be a little bit more context specific and tailored to the needs of the community. Next, I mentioned earlier is our eco rules, excuse me. That's our region's commute trip reduction rule, or a CTR rule, as many folks refer to them in the TDM realm. It is a requirement from the Department of Environmental Quality on businesses with over 100 employees at a site to work to reduce single occupancy vehicle trips of their staff. This includes requirements to have a trip reduction plan for each work site and to do a biannual survey, a modal survey, and to rate success and for us to collect data. It's currently only in the metro region. It is in the process of a rulemaking committee update that would be expand the rule to other MPO areas in the rest of the state. We're also hoping in this process to be able to update the rule to have a better process that would include clearer language that leads to fewer loopholes. And really, it's our one stick that we have around TDM in Oregon. We are lacking some of the other things that other jurisdictions or states might be able to use, such as HOV lanes or tolling. So we're really relying heavily on this to help us move forward with our work. Our Oregon Department of Transportation is positioning themselves to provide additional funding and for programming that would support businesses that will be new and existing under this rule. And hopefully that will lead to more opportunities for us to engage with businesses and provide them with services. All right, and last is our own, kind of internal program development. In the past, our grantees applied for funding for their existing programs with not a lot of involvement from Metro, and we have recently we're focusing primarily now on our commute program, where we produced an action plan that really gives Metro a little bit more direction on how we can guide our grantees to ensure that we're all working well together. It outlines our issues and came up with some actionable items to address the capacity and lack of coverage, and what our partners need to be more successful, and how Metro can better guide that programming, be more collaborative, and work with them in delivering programs, which is something really we have not done before. We'll be doing this through our state brand, Get There Oregon, while still, working side by side with our grantees and having them have their own brand identities. Next is our RTO equity plan. It's definitely an internal facing document on how we can create a more equitable grant program and guide our grantees to create and reach their own equity goals for their programs. And we're currently finalizing a regional partnership framework that defines Metro roles in program delivery, as we recognized the gaps that were in services, both geography and types of TDM services that our partners are delivering, and coming up with a plan on how to address those things. All right, I am going to hand it back, I believe, to Catalina, and thanks for having us.